If you want to know why your desires are not fulfilled, why the things you want most seem to move away from you instead of getting closer, then listen carefully, because you're probably doing the opposite of what you should. Most people live in a constant state of anxiety, rush, and frustration. They want results now. They want certainties right now. And when they don't have them, they despair, they obsess, they push harder. But there's something they never told you. Desperation is the fastest way to lose everything. Rush makes you clumsy. Fear makes you make bad decisions. And anxiety blocks what should actually flow towards you. Think about this. When you're afraid of losing something, what do? You squeeze it with all your strength. You hold it desperately, as if letting go would mean the end. But what happens when you squeeze too hard? You break it. You wear it out. Or worse yet, you push it away forever. Life works the same way. What you chase with anxiety runs away. What you try to control with fear crumbles. And if you still don't understand this truth, you'll keep stumbling over and over again on the same stone. But there's another way to do things. A way in which instead of fighting against the current, you learn to move with it. A way in which instead of wearing yourself out, you allow life to take you exactly where you should be. And for that, you need 3 things: calm, trust, and surrender. In this video, I'm going to give you 9 lessons that will completely change the way you see manifestation, success, and life itself. 9 principles that, if you understand and apply them, will make you stop acting like someone who begs and start moving like someone who already knows that what's theirs is on the way. If you really want results, if you really want things to happen for you instead of against you, stay until the end. Because this is something that no one has told you before, but you need to hear. 1. Inhale confidence. Exhale worry. If you walk through life with a furrowed brow, tense shoulders, and a mind full of, what if it doesn't work? What if I don't make it? What if everything goes wrong? Then you've already lost before you've started. Look at it this way. Have you ever tried to throw a ball with a completely rigid hand? It doesn't go far, does it? Because tension blocks movement. The same goes for life. If you cling to worry as if it were a shield, all you're doing is putting obstacles in the way of what you want to achieve. The problem is that many believe that worrying is synonymous with responsibility, that if they're not constantly analyzing every possibility of failure, it means they don't care. But that's a mental trap. Worry doesn't give you control, it just robs you of energy. It doesn't make you more prepared, it just makes you weaker. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus said that we should not worry about what is not in our hands, because every second you spend anxious about something you can't change is a second wasted. And what can you change? Your attitude, your focus, what you decide to do with your energy. Look around you. How many people do you know who live trapped in a constant state of anxiety? They wake up worried, work worried, go to sleep worried. They don't enjoy what they have because they're too busy fearing losing it. They don't dare to take a step because they're too busy wondering what will happen if they stumble. And then they wonder why they feel that life is a constant struggle. Let me tell you something that many find hard to accept. Fear is a magnet. Anxiety is a magnet. If you're constantly expecting the worst, you'll end up attracting it. Not because there's a magical universe conspiring against you, but because when your mind is focused on the problem, it loses sight of the solution. When you obsess over the fear of failing, you become your own obstacle. And here's the key. The same happens with confidence. Self-assurance is also a magnet. Not because things fall from the sky without doing anything, but because when you act with certainty, You make different decisions. You move with a different energy. You project confidence, and people respond to that. Life responds to that. So start with the basics. Breathe. Yes, it sounds simple, but it's the first thing we forget when we're caught up in anxiety. Inhale confidence. Exhale worry. And it's not an empty metaphor. Do it. When you feel fear starting to tighten your chest, stop. Breathe deeply. Fill your lungs with the certainty that you can handle whatever comes. Release the air, letting go of the tension you don't need to carry. Because life doesn't give opportunities to those who doubt themselves, but to those who walk with the certainty that whatever happens, they will know how to face it. And this is not just motivational advice, it's a real strategy. If you learn to manage your internal state, if you learn to regulate your breathing and calm your mind, you'll start to notice that many of the things that seemed impossible to you before suddenly become attainable. I'm not telling you to ignore the risks or to live in an optimistic fantasy. I'm telling you to stop paralyzing yourself over scenarios that only exist in your head, because the mind has immense power. If you feed fear, you'll see fear everywhere. If you feed confidence, you'll start to notice doors where before you only saw walls. 2. Let go of the reins. Life already knows the way. Look around you. Everything in nature follows a perfect order. The sun doesn't worry about rising each morning. The seasons don't need reminders to change. The rivers don't force themselves to find the sea. Everything happens in its time, without resistance, without hurry, without anxiety. But here you are, trying to control every tiny detail of your life, as if it depended exclusively on your obsession. The problem is that you've been made to believe that the more you cling, the closer you'll be to what you want. That if you don't have absolute control of every situation, everything will go wrong. But here's the truth. Few want to accept. Control is an illusion. And the more you try to hold on to it, the more you wear yourself out. The more you frustrate yourself, the more you distance yourself from what you truly desire. Life doesn't work under your conditions. It doesn't care about your impatience. It's not interested in your deadlines. It's not going to change its pace just because you're desperate. But that doesn't mean you can't influence what happens. It means that your job is not to manipulate every detail, but to align yourself with the natural flow of things. Think of a person who is in the middle of a river. They have two options. They can fight against the current, exhaust themselves, scream, and kick until they run out of strength. Or they can relax, observe where the water is moving, and use their energy intelligently to advance without resistance. Which one do you think will get further? The anxiety to control every step of your life is what's holding you back. Every time you obsess over the exact how in which everything must happen, you close yourself off to possibilities you hadn't even considered. Every time you cling to a single path, you miss all the other routes that could lead you to the same destination. And it's not about sitting back and waiting for everything to happen on its own. It's about understanding when to act and when to let go. It's about giving your maximum effort, but without trying to manipulate what's not in your hands. There are people who ruin their own opportunities because they don't know how to let things flow. Relationships that are destroyed because someone couldn't trust the process. Businesses that fail because someone wanted to rush a result that wasn't ready yet. Paths that are never taken because someone was afraid to let go of control and let themselves be carried. And if you don't want that to happen to you, you have to learn to do the hardest thing. Trust. Trust that if you're doing the right thing, things will align as they should. Trust that if something doesn't happen at this moment, it's because there's a reason. Trust that life in its complex perfection, already knows the way better than you. Because the most ironic thing about all this is that when you finally dare to let go, when you stop trying to force every situation, when you allow yourself to flow with the certainty that you're on the right path, that's when things start to happen. 3. Embrace the now. That's where the magic happens. Look at yourself. Where are you now? Not physically, but mentally. Are you here, at this very moment, listening to these words attentively? Or is your mind trapped somewhere between the past that no longer exists and the future that has not yet arrived? Most people do not live in the present. They are prisoners of what was or what could be. They punish themselves for past mistakes they cannot change. They worry about an uncertain future that does not yet exist. And in that process, they miss the only thing that really matters, the now. Because this is where everything happens. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but right now. And if you don't learn to inhabit the present, if you keep your head elsewhere, you're going to miss your whole life. Think about how many times you've been in an amazing place, surrounded by important people to you, but instead of enjoying it, your mind was worried about something else, thinking about work, about money, about a problem that may never happen. And then, when that moment is gone, when you realize what you didn't take advantage of, all you're left with is regret. That's what happens when you don't live in the present. Time slips through your fingers. One day, you wake up and realize that everything you waited so long for has already passed, and you didn't even enjoy it because you were too busy with something else. And the worst part is that this habit of living in another time also destroys what you're trying to build, because when you're anxious about the future, you don't see the opportunities of the present. When you're stuck in the past, you can't move forward to anything new. You want to change your life, you want to manifest something big, but you remain disconnected from the only real tool you have to do it, the present moment. Life is not built in the future, it is built in the now. You can't write a book in the future, you have to do it today. You can't improve your body tomorrow, you have to train today. You can't change your mindset someday, you have to start now. So stop for a moment. Breathe. Feel the air entering your lungs. Look around you. What's happening at this very moment? What opportunities are in front of you that you hadn't noticed because you were too busy elsewhere? When you learn to live in the present, everything changes. Your mind stops being a chaos. Your anxiety decreases. You start to see things more clearly. And best of all, you start to enjoy your life, instead of just running after something that never seems to arrive. 4. The clock of the universe never speeds up nor slows down. Imagine you're on a train. You can't speed it up. You can't skip stations. You can't force it to arrive earlier than scheduled. All you can do is sit, observe the landscape, and trust that the train will take you to your destination at the right time. But many don't understand this. They get up from their seat every 5 minutes, look out the window impatiently, ask over and over again, how much longer? Some even try to open the doors ahead of time, desperate to arrive. And what happens to them? They exhaust themselves. They get frustrated. And in the worst-case scenario, they jump off before the station and end up lost in the middle of nowhere. That's what you do when you try to force life's timings, when you demand things to happen now, regardless of whether you're ready, when you consume yourself in anxiety because success hasn't arrived yet, because the opportunity hasn't knocked on your door, because you feel that time is moving forward and you're not. But let me ask you something. What has that desperation served you? Has it made things happen faster? Or has it only filled you with frustration, exhaustion, and a constant feeling of insufficiency. Life has its own pace, and no matter how much you try to rush it, it won't adjust to your expectations. You can complain, you can curse, you can obsess over the clock, but none of that will make your moment arrive sooner. What it will do is wear you out. It's like running inside the train, thinking that you'll get to your destination sooner. No matter how many steps you take, you're still inside the same carriage, at the same time, in the same place. The only difference is that now you're exhausted. And here's the trap. Impatience not only robs you of peace, it also blinds you. While you're too busy looking at the destination, you miss what's on the way. While you're caught up in frustration over what hasn't happened yet, you ignore the opportunities that are already in front of you. Life won't warn you when what you're waiting for will arrive. It won't send you a message saying, "Get ready. In 2 months, I'll give you what you want." The only thing you can do is be ready, always. Being ready means stop complaining and start improving. It means using time to your advantage instead of seeing it as an enemy. There are people who waste entire years because they're too busy lamenting what hasn't happened yet. They complain about the passing time, but do nothing with the time they have. And then, when the opportunity they were waiting for finally arrives, they're not prepared. They don't know what to do with it because they didn't invest their time in strengthening themselves, in growing, in becoming wiser. On the other hand, there are those who understand that the perfect moment is not something to rush, but something to train for. They are the ones who don't get distracted by impatience, but use it as a reminder that every day is an opportunity to be better. And when their train arrives, when the doors finally open, they don't have to run or push. They simply walk in. So tell me, are you going to keep demanding life to hurry up just because you don't know how to handle your impatience? Or are you going to learn to sit, breathe, and trust that your train will arrive when it's supposed to? The clock of the universe neither speeds up nor slows down. It's perfect. The problem has never been time. The problem has been your anxiety to control it. 5. Haste is the trap. Patience is the key. Run, hurry, do it fast. If you don't achieve it now, someone else will do it before you. If you don't get it soon, it means you will never get it. If you don't see immediate results, then you're not progressing. This is what has been drilled into your head. A constant state of urgency. A feeling that if you don't move fast, you're losing. That if you don't get what you want right away, then something is wrong. But here's the truth. Haste is the most dangerous trap you can fall into. It's what makes you make bad decisions. It's what leads you to burn out prematurely. It's what makes you abandon things that could have worked just because they didn't give you immediate results. Look around you. How many people have given up on their dreams because they didn't see progress in the first weeks or months? How many have ruined relationships because they didn't know how to wait, because they wanted everything to happen now? How many have made impulsive decisions that left them worse off than they were, just because they didn't know how to handle the wait? Patience is not passivity. Patience is not resignation. Patience is the strategy of those who understand that greatness is not built overnight. It's the tool of those who know that truly valuable things take time, and that real progress is invisible at first. But we live in a world where no one wants to wait. We want to lose weight in 2 weeks. We want to build wealth in a month. We want immediate results without understanding that everything worthwhile requires effort, consistency, and time. And this is where most people give up, because they are so accustomed to instant gratification that when they don't see an immediate change, they assume it will never come. They get desperate, they get frustrated, They give up. And the worst part is that in many cases, they were about to get where they wanted to go. Patience is not just a virtue, it's an advantage. While others wear themselves out running aimlessly, the one who knows how to wait strengthens. While others make desperate decisions, the patient observes, evaluates, and chooses wisely. And no, this doesn't mean you should sit back and wait for things to fall from the sky. It means you should learn to move strategically, without haste, but without pause. It means you should trust in the process and in your ability to improve every day, instead of obsessing over immediate results. Look at any real success story, and you'll see a pattern. No one reached the top in a single leap. Everyone went through a process, through moments of doubt, through periods where it seemed like nothing was moving forward. But those who persisted, those who resisted, were the ones who ultimately achieved what they wanted. So tell me, are you going to let haste trip you up? Are you going to keep believing that if it doesn't happen quickly, then it's not worth it? Or are you going to understand that patience is not a weakness, but the key to getting what you really want? 6. The how and when are not your problem. You want something. You have a goal, a dream, a desire that burns within you. And the first thing your mind does is obsess over two questions. How is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? These two questions are the origin of all your anxiety. They are the ones that keep you awake at night, the ones that fill your head with doubts, the ones that make you feel that if you don't have a clear answer, then you'll never achieve it. But here's the truth. The how and when are not your problem. They are not under your control. And the sooner you understand this, the faster you'll free yourself from the desperation that consumes you. Look at anything you've achieved in your life. Did it really happen as you imagined? Was every step exactly as you planned? No, because life doesn't follow scripts written by your mind. Things happen as they should happen, in ways that you often can't even foresee. But here's the problem. When you obsess over controlling the how and when, you close yourself off to all the possibilities that don't fit into your limited version of the facts. If you don't see the exact path, you assume there is no path. If it doesn't happen in the time you expected, you believe it will never happen. That's not patience, that's ego. The ego that believes everything must align according to its own expectations. That if things don't come by the route it imagined, then they're worthless. That if they don't happen within the time frame it's set, then it means you've failed. But life doesn't work like that. Life has ways of surprising you, of taking you where you need to be, through paths you would never have considered. And if instead of resisting, you allowed yourself to trust, you would realize that many times what you thought was an obstacle was actually a necessary detour. This doesn't mean you should sit back and wait for everything to fall from the sky. It means that your job is to act, move, give your best, without obsessing over how or when the results will come. Think of an archer. His only job is to aim and release the arrow accurately. He can't control the wind. He can't control the exact trajectory once the arrow has been fired. He can only do his part and trust that it will reach the target. You are the archer. Do your part. Improve your skills. Keep moving. Focus on what you can control. But once you release the arrow, once you give your best, stop worrying about every little detail of its journey. Because what is meant for you will come, not because you force it, but because you were prepared enough to receive it when the time was right. So tell me, are you going to continue obsessing over every detail you can't control? Or are you going to start trusting that if you keep doing the right thing, the answers will come on their own? Stop wearing yourself out with what is not your responsibility. Act, release the arrow, and let life do its job. 7. First find peace in you, then in the world. No matter how much money you earn, how many goals you achieve, or how many things you accomplish, if there is chaos within you, none of that is going to make you feel complete. This is the mistake most people make. They believe that peace is in something external, in success, in the validation of others, in financial stability, in finding the right person. They believe that if they can control everything around them, then they will finally be calm. But the reality is that someone who doesn't know how to find peace within themselves will never find it in the world, because the world is unpredictable. Today, everything is fine. Tomorrow, it may crumble. Today, you have certainties. Tomorrow, you have doubts. If your tranquility depends on everything being in order, then you are always one step away from anxiety. Peace is not something that is achieved outside. It is something that is built inside. And here's the part few want to accept. Peace does not mean that everything in your life is perfect. It means that even though chaos is present, you do not sink into it. That even though there are problems, you know you can face them. That even though things don't turn out as you expect, you trust in your ability to adapt. Think of the sea. On the surface, there are waves, there are storms, there is chaos. But if you dive deep enough, everything is calm. The noise of the surface does not alter the depth. That's how the mind of someone who has learned to find peace within themselves is. No matter what happens outside, there is always a place within them that remains intact. Now the question is, how do you get to that state? It's not something you achieve overnight. It's a process. And it starts when you stop looking outside for what you can only find within. When you understand that nothing external is going to give you a tranquility that you are not capable of giving yourself. Because true peace does not depend on circumstances. It doesn't depend on everything going well. It doesn't depend on life meeting your expectations. It depends on you, on how you choose to react to what happens, on how much you allow external things to dictate your internal state. That's why there are people who can lose everything and still stand firm, and there are others who have everything and yet live in a constant state of dissatisfaction. The difference is not in what they have, but in what they have built within themselves. So ask yourself, are you looking for peace in the wrong place? Are you waiting for life to give it to you instead of building it yourself? Are you putting your stability in the hands of things that can disappear at any moment? If the answer is yes, then you already know why you always feel restless, why it's never enough, why there's always something that steals your tranquility. Start from within. Find peace in you. And when you do, you'll see that nothing outside has the power to take it away from you. 8. Do your part, but without pushing the current. There's a very thin line between acting with determination and forcing things out of desperation. And that line is one that many cross without realizing it. Think of someone trying to start a campfire. If they do nothing, if they just sit and wait for the fire to magically appear, they'll be left frozen in the darkness. But if they blow too hard, if they try to force the fire aggressively, all they'll achieve is putting it out. Life works the same way. You can't sit idly by, waiting for everything to sort itself out. But you also can't act with anxiety and desperation, believing that if you push hard enough, everything will happen faster. The problem is that many confuse effort with desperation. They believe that constant movement means progress, that always being busy means being productive, that if they push hard enough, they can force life to give them what they want. but all they achieve is exhaustion and frustration when things don't go as expected. Water flows because it doesn't resist its path. It doesn't try to push the current. It doesn't obsess over getting there sooner. It just follows its course in the most efficient way possible. That's how you should move through life. Act, yes, but without forcing. Do your part, but without despairing for immediate results. Because when you act with confidence in the process, when you focus on what you can control and let go of the anxiety for what you can't, everything starts to flow more naturally. Opportunities arrive without you having to chase them fearfully. The right people appear without you having to cling to those who don't add value. But when you push the current, when you try to control every detail, when you don't know how to let go, all you do is generate resistance. And instead of getting closer to what you want, you move further away. Look at any area of your life. If something isn't working, ask yourself, am I acting with determination or with desperation? Am I moving forward with confidence, or am I pushing the current with fear? Because the difference between achieving something and sabotaging it lies in the energy with which you move. Those who trust move forward with strategy. Those who doubt drown in their own anxiety. Do your part. Give your best. But when the time comes to let go, let go. When the fire starts to burn, stop blowing out of desperation. Because what is meant for you doesn't need to be forced. It simply happens. 9. Don't make decisions with a shaking pulse. The worst decisions of your life were probably made in a state of fear, anxiety, or desperation. And the worst part is that, at the time, they seemed like the only correct option. Because when the pulse shakes, the mind clouds. You don't think clearly, you don't see things as they really are. You just react. And most of the time, reacting without control leads you straight to disaster. Think of someone trapped in quicksand. Their instinct tells them to fight, to move desperately to get out of there. But the more they struggle, the faster they sink. The only way to survive is not with panic, but with strategy. Moving slowly, with precision, keeping calm. Life works the same way. If you make decisions when you are full of fear, if you act from anxiety, you are most likely to end up sinking even deeper. Because fear distorts reality. It makes you see threats where there are none. It makes you think that time is running out when in reality you have room to act. How many times have you spoken out of turn in the midst of anger and then regretted it? How many times did you make an impulsive purchase just because you felt the need to fill a void? How many times did you accept something you didn't want for fear of losing an opportunity that wasn't even for you? Rushed decisions are almost never good decisions because they are not based on reason, but on the emotion of the moment. And when the emotion subsides, all that's left are the consequences. The problem is that we often don't realize that we are making a decision out of desperation. We convince ourselves that it's the right thing to do, that we can't wait any longer, that we have to act now, or we'll lose the opportunity. But is it really like that? If you are currently facing a difficult decision, ask yourself one question. If I were completely calm, without fear, without anxiety, without pressure, would I still make the same decision? If the answer is no, then you already know what you have to do. Wait, calm down, think it over from another mental state. Look at anyone who has achieved great things. Do you think they let themselves be carried away by impulses at every crucial moment of their life? No. They knew how to wait. They knew how to analyze. They knew how to move with precision. Because acting fast does not mean acting well. And moving desperately does not mean you are moving forward. The solution is simple, but not easy. Never make an important decision when you are upset. If you are angry, calm down before you speak. If you are anxious, breathe before you act. If you are desperate, take a step back before you move. Wait, breathe, evaluate. Because in calmness lies true strength, and in clarity, true wisdom. This is where patience and self-confidence come into play. If you are afraid that an opportunity will disappear by not making a decision immediately, then that opportunity probably wasn't for you. The things that really matter don't crumble by waiting a little longer. Think of a chess player. A beginner moves their pieces hastily, without thinking too much, because they just want to do something. A master, on the other hand, takes their time. They observe the board. They evaluate all the possibilities. And when they finally move a piece, they do it with total certainty. You should be like that master, not like the desperate player who moves their pieces without thinking, hoping that something will work. The world is full of people who have ruined great opportunities by not knowing how to wait. People who made hasty decisions in a moment of weakness and then spent years regretting it. So the next time you feel your pulse shaking, do the opposite of what your instinct is screaming at you. Stop, wait, breathe. Because when the storm passes, you will see things with a clarity that you can't even imagine right now.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.